Hi there, I'm Kim with the Everyday Sage. As of November 1st, SNAP benefits are being cut because of the government shutdown. And for millions of families, this means that putting food on the table just got even harder. And if this course continues on its current path, it will collide directly with Thanksgiving and other, seasonal holidays. And one of the hardest times of the year to face an empty pantry are during the holidays. So this video is about people. It's about families, children, the elderly, people with disabilities, and they are going to go hungry. I have seen some pretty horrible commentary by people that seem to have an incredible lack of empathy on social media. But this video is, to quote Charles Dickens, is about our fellow passengers to the grave. In other words, people that are just like you and just like me. Okay, so here's what's happening. SNAP, which is the abbreviation for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, is federally funded. And with no budget agreement in sight, those funds can be paused or will be cut November 1st. And we hope benefits resume quickly once the shutdown ends, but hope doesn't fill an empty stomach. And it's heartbreaking to think that in the United States of America, people can work a full-time job or even two and still not earn enough to feed their families adequately. And I want to be honest, right now, I know that I am in a place of privilege, but it hasn't always been that way. When my first daughter was born, and that we're talking the late 80s or the early 90s, I received food stamps, which is the same program as SNAP today. And I went to food banks, and I used WIC vouchers to get milk and cheese. And I know what it feels like to walk into the grocery store and wonder how you're going to stretch what funds you have. And I also know the fear when you're in the checkout line and you're trying to pay and the transaction is taking longer than it should. And this is more recent than 80s and 90s. And you're standing there and your heart's beating faster and your cheeks, or you can feel them flushed, and you're terrified the payment will be declined. It's not a good feeling, and I know it well. So if you're in a difficult situation now and you are facing the loss of funds that you count on to make ends meet, what can you do in the meantime to prepare? Well, first off, go through, take stock of what you already have. Check your pantry, your fridge, your freezer, and, write out some simple meal plans. And it doesn't have to be fancy. It just has to carry you through. And, try to build meals that will stretch $1, even further than they're already being stretched. Dried beans and rice, peanut butter and jelly, things that you probably use regularly anyway, but grilled cheese, pasta or noodles with butter and Parmesan cheese. And breakfast is oatmeal, grits, generic brands of dry cereal, soups or casseroles that, will help you make the most of what you've got. And these meals are filling. They're somewhat affordable and they're flexible. And using beans and legumes as your primary protein source rather than meat could be a really great and healthy, cost-effective alternative in this situation, especially right now with extremely high prices due to the tariffs across the board. So lean on community, beyond just food banks. Check neighborhood Facebook groups and buy nothing groups and offer up, or even church bulletin boards. And every day I see neighbors sharing leftover produce from gardens, or at least they were when it was the summertime, an extra loaf of bread or pantry items that they don't need. And it may feel hard to ask. I totally get that, but these groups are here for exactly this reason. And most times you'll see that people are glad to offer what they have to give. And there are so many good people that really want to help. And if you're in a position where you do have a little extra, then this is also a time to step up, like buying an extra bag of rice or peanut butter or some canned goods and dropping it at a local food bank. It can make a huge difference. Feeding America's website, which you can access from this QR code, will point you to the closest donation location to drop off and for help. Churches, community centers, Salvation Army, they're also good places to donate. And I've linked many resources for help in the video description below, so be sure to check that out. And don't forget grassroots efforts too, like local Facebook Buy Nothing or neighborhood groups. Even sharing a post like, hey, I've got an extra loaf of bread, or I've got a few pantry items. Does anyone need them? Maybe if you cooked a big pot of chili and you have a lot left over, then offer to share. I promise somebody will take you up on it and it'll be appreciated, and it can make someone's week a little lighter. So this is one of those moments where a small act can really ripple out. So this is a really hard season to be without common necessities, and it's even harder to face when you have kids at home and when holidays like Thanksgiving are looming right around the corner. But if you're facing uncertainty, you've got your neighbors, you've got community resources, and there are real people who care and who want to help, and they'll show up when they're asked. If this video helps you, or you think it could benefit someone, who may be in need, please feel free to share it and share the resources. And if you haven't yet, I'd love to have you subscribe and follow along. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.